not copy a photograph? Why not just train your goldfish to trace it? Might take longer, but hey, at least it's original. Alright, maybe that sounds mad. Just kidding, guys, unless your goldfish really can draw, in which case, please send me a video. I could use an assistant. Hello everyone, I'm Liu Gugu. Today, I'm sitting here with my charcoal sticks, trying to remind myself, and maybe you too, that drawing isn't about copying every pixel of the photo. I start with Willow charcoal, sketching lightly over the paper, fingers smudging here and there, not worrying about detail yet. This first stage is about feeling the rhythm of the composition, where her head tilts, how the plush curves into her lap, the weight of the folds. I'm not copying the photo, I'm searching for balance, for flow. The photo shows what is, but I'm drawing what could be. Softer, calmer, maybe even kinder. I smudge away sharp lines, letting them blur like memory. The more I loosen my grip on the photo, the more the drawing starts to speak for itself. And as you can see here, drawing like this is very simple. It's just me, some Willow charcoal, and then smudging everything with my fingers. No fancy tools needed. The sketch now feels balanced, so I begin rendering the face, but not the eyes first. Today, I start with the hair, especially the bangs sweeping across her forehead. And honestly, even me, Ryukuku, grandmaster of smudging things until they look acceptable, still feel nervous about drawing loosely. The face feels precious, easy to overwork. Hair, on the other hand, feels playful, forgiving. Yesterday, someone asked me if I dip my blending stump into charcoal powder and how I actually use it to apply charcoal. So, for darkest shadows, I dip my blending stump straight into my little jar of DIY charcoal powder. For medium tones, I just let leftover charcoal on the stump do its work. And for the softest areas, I clean the stump with tissue first, so it barely whispers across the page. In here, I don't draw every strand. Instead, I look for the rhythm, where the locks bend and merge, where highlights catch the light. Drawing hair isn't about copying, it's about capturing flow. It's strange, but sometimes starting with something easy helps my confidence bloom, so I can approach the harder parts gently without freezing up. Now comes the delicate part, her eyes, nose, and mouth. This is where the pull to copy exactly feels the strongest. It's tempting to measure every distance, pupil to eyelid, nose to lip, corner to corner. The photo makes it so clear, but if I only copy, the drawing risks feeling stiff, lifeless. So instead, I ask, what feeling do I want? The photo shows her exact gaze, but maybe I tilt it slightly, soften the mouth, lift a corner into a gentler smile. As you can see here, I don't really draw those tiny details, like her eyelashes, so they don't distract from the overall drawing, and sometimes I soften the lower eyelid a little, so she looks less stern and a bit more childlike. These choices aren't mistakes, they're decisions. It feels almost like translating. The photo speaks in detail, I answer in suggestion. In this portrait drawing world, likeness matters, yes, but only if I'm truly trying to draw a person's portrait. In this drawing though, I'm not chasing a perfect portrait, I'm trying to draw a scene. So I feel free to change the likeness, to add, alter, or leave out anything that doesn't feel right to me. I remind myself gently, drawing isn't about copying the surface, it's about catching the moment behind the face. A spark of thought, a softness of mood, something the camera never quite sees. Moving down, I draw the folds of her robe. Fabric can feel overwhelming if I try to copy every wrinkle from the photo. So instead, I look for the big shapes, how the folds wrap gently around her chest, how light pulls softly on her sleeve, how shadow gathers quietly in the crook of her arm. I leave out many small creases, keeping the drawing cleaner and calmer. The robe becomes a gentle rhythm of curves rather than a tangle of lines. Drawing clothes is actually one of my favorite parts. It feels surprisingly easy to suggest a fold. I just map out the darkest areas first, then use my blending stump to darken the lighter values, softening around the fold itself, and suddenly it starts to look real. And because the blending stump covers large areas so quickly, it makes this stage even easier and more playful than shading everything slowly with a pencil. Now to her small painterly hands and the plush she's holding. Hands are famously tricky, and copying every finger joint perfectly rarely helps. So instead, I look for the gesture, the gentle curl, the relaxed thumb, the suggestion of knuckles. Those elements alone are enough to suggest her hand. There's no need to go further, as it might steal attention from the focal point. The plush, I only suggest its shape lightly, so it won't steal attention from her face. But honestly, I do love drawing stuffed animals. They're soft, silly, and always add a spark of tenderness. And maybe that's the real secret here. A drawing isn't about what's there on the surface. It's about what feels alive beneath it. The warmth, the softness, the quiet story that can't be photographed. That's why I draw, not to copy, but to discover something living on the paper. Around her, I add a few abstract shapes. Draped cloth, soft background props, blurred just enough to feel gentle and distant. The photo itself doesn't have perfect balance, so I invent these shapes to quietly guide the viewer's eye. A darker tone here to draw the gaze back towards her face, a lighter patch there to keep the composition open and breathing. I don't worry too much about what these shapes are. Maybe they're folded fabric, maybe a pillow, or maybe nothing at all. Their real purpose isn't realism, it's harmony. Drawing isn't just copying what I see, it's composing, almost like arranging music, balancing the deep bass notes of shadow, the softer chords of mid-tone, and the delicate melody of highlight drifting across the paper. Now onto the background. In the photo is just plain, almost forgettable, but here I see a chance to add depth and contrast. I stop by darkening the space directly behind her head. This makes the lighter skin and robe quietly glow, lifting her gently forward on the paper. The charcoal deepens into velvety blacks, then softens outward into mid-tones. It becomes not just empty space, but atmosphere. And this is where the main thought of today really comes alive. Stop copying the photo, because copying would have left the background dull. By darkening and inventing, the drawing finds its own balance and mood. Drawing this way feels like a small rebellion, choosing drama over accuracy, storytelling over record keeping. And slowly, the background stops being blank and starts feeling like part of her world. It makes her expression clearer, her shape gentler, her presence stronger. This, for me, is a kind of mastery I've always sought, the never-ending quest to draw more painterly, to let the drawing breathe without overworking it. Finally, I step back and look. Are there edges that feel too harsh? Shadows that could be deeper? Highlights to lift with the eraser? This stage feels almost meditative. Small corrections, gentle touches, but always listening to what the drawing asks for. It started from a photograph, yes, but now it has its own softness, its own weight. My favourite parts often aren't what was in the photo, a smudge that looks like fabric, an edge that drifts into light, a highlight that wasn't really there. Drawing isn't copying, it's seeing, deciding, feeling. It's trusting that the paper and charcoal can say something new. And as I finish, I remind myself gently, don't just draw what you see, draw what you feel. The photograph helps me start, but the drawing only comes alive when I dare to step beyond it.